Hey guys, wanted to do a tier list video for the new elite specializations coming with this expansion pack. And every other streamer, you know, they did their tier list, but they're all completely terrible. I've watched most of them, and these people are not serious individuals, and their opinions shouldn't be taken seriously. And I felt somewhat obligated to do a tier list. I was not going to do it, but considering how bad everyone's opinions are, I felt that the community needed a hero to step up. And quite frankly, most of these people are incapable of doing that. And once again, I will be here. I will save the community. I will do the heavy lifting. So with that said, here's my tier list for the first impressions of the the Visions of Eternity Elite Specs. I'm ranking these based on how interesting they are and how good they are from a design and RP perspective. Does it satisfy the headcanon for the class? Is the design elegant? And are the mechanics of the class interesting? And does it look like it's going to be good and fun to play in PvE? So yeah, stick around for that. If funny opinions and all of that is too much for you, then kindly leave now and quit ruining the fun for everyone else. Bye. All right, I'm going to explain how this tier list is set up. Again, this is based on first impressions, whether or not the specs look cool, whether or not they look like they have fun mechanics, and you know, whether or not I would be interested in playing them. You can see I have it set up into Bespoke, which is the best, Woke, which is pretty good, Broke, which means I'm not interested in it, not looking good, and then Refund. Refund is a special category where if I was maining this particular class, you know, am I really going to refund the expansion? No, but would I be tempted to? Maybe. Stay tuned. We'll see if anything gets put in there. So first up, we have the Luminary. The Luminary is, at first glance, very PvP coded. Again, I don't really care about PvP personally. I don't have time for mini games in Guild Wars 2, or like, you know, like random side mini games that are irrelevant to the community, of which SPVP is one. So Luminary, it just looks kind of bad for PvE. It looks like it's a very weird spec. It's like essentially it's core Guardian, but with a Shroud set of skills that are not particularly interesting. From a gameplay perspective, it looks like it's going to play in PvE like every other Guardian spec, where you will go into your Shroud. One of your skills is going to give you a DPS buff, and then you're going to try to use, you know, your Semble, your Greatsword Spin, and you know, your other burst skills in the window of that thing, which is basically how every power spec works in Guild Wars 2 for Guardian. Uninspired design doesn't look interesting really, and doesn't seem like it's going to move the needle. I honestly have to say, if I was a Guardian main, this would give me zero hype whatsoever. I would actually put that in the refund category. Ritualist, interesting. A little bit more interesting than Luminary. I think it will have it's hard to say how it's going to be best used in PvE, because it's got a lot of competition with Scourge for the support sort of spec. I'm not entirely too convinced that it will work as a healing build like some people seem to be. I think as a DPS boon support, it has a little bit more potential. The The gameplay looks okay. I wouldn't put this in bespoke category, but if I was a Necromain, would I be happy with it? Yeah, I think there's potential there. But is it the most interesting? Does it go in like a very interesting category? No, but it looks good. I think it will be powerful, and yeah, maybe it's just missing a little bit of coolness to get there. Troubadour, another interesting spec. Interestingly enough, for Troubadour, is they've already announced that there's going to be nerfs for Chrono to give Troubadour more space to exist, and that in terms of support and healing, so it's kind of interesting that Troubadour, you need to know, we kind of need to know what nerfs they're actually going to do to Chrono before we can really accurately judge where Troubadour is going to fall. But from a design standpoint, it looks pretty interesting. The mechanics, it's got a lot. It's almost like a hybrid of a Chrono and a Virtuoso, but with like a heavy support theme. I'm going to be interested to see if any viable DPS builds come out of Troubadour in PvE. But am I blown away by Troubadour's design? Do I think it's really amazing? I think that's no. But so it's going in woke because it looks like it's going to be good. It looks kind of interesting, but it doesn't blow me away or get me excited. So next up is Evoker, which is really trying to cash in on the cute theme, and a couple other fan servicey things like single attunement swap. The problem is any of it gonna be good, and it almost doesn't matter. The people that want to play single attunement elementalist are gonna play it, so whether or not it's actually good doesn't matter, because the people that want to play it are going to play it, and that's just the end of the story. But again, I'm very confident in ANET that they are going to launch all of these things when the X-Pack goes, either completely overpowered at launch of Visions of Eternity, or the first balance patch after Visions of Eternity, they will be buffed to be overpowered if they didn't launch overpowered. So I'm not particularly worried about the power level of Evoker. There's a few things in the design that might sort of need to be tweaked, in that you kind of don't want to specialize in the element that is your main element, actually, because of the way the mechanics work. And it also looks like that, like, the benefits you get from going single element are hardly worth the sacrifices that you give up for giving up your other attunements. So they've got some interesting balance choices to make. I know a lot of people are going to say it should go in broke or refund, because they're worried about sort of like some of the interactions and the power level. But I think if you look at it from an Ellie mains perspective, there is a lot of fan servicey stuff. As I said, it fulfills a lot of the headcanon of a lot of the Ellie players. And listen, this isn't a spec, evidently, as a result of all of that, for elitists and for people that care about 50k DPS benchmarks and all that. So if you look at it from the perspective of this spec is here, similar to Deadeye, for role players, then it is kind of delivering. So I'm going to actually surprisingly put it in woke. And there you go. Now we come to the most controversial one, and we have the Antiquary. A lot of people in the thief community, you can identify these people. They walk through the mall with like trench coats on, and they wear fingerless black gloves, and they look like they're dressed to go to like a Max Payne convention, or like they're like an extra from the Matrix. You know the types. Those people, those are thief mains, and they are not happy because the Antiquary has some goofy stuff with like the Skrit and whatnot. But Guild Wars 2, you know, it's a fairly lighthearted game, and you have to sort of embrace the goofiness at times. Like, not, you know, like even if you look at Warrior, like Berserker has some goofy stuff to it, so you kind of just got to roll with it. Listen, if it doesn't fit your headcanon, then, you know, then don't play it. If it fits your headcanon, that's great. And really, for the most part, when you're in like a raid or an intense, you know, world v world fight or wherever you end up playing this crazy spec, you're not gonna like take the time to see the little Skrit. You're just gonna be pressing buttons and focus on the chaos. So get over yourself and realize that the design of this thing is next level, and there's no other elite spec anywhere close to this, and they took a bunch of risks in the design, and it's either gonna be complete hell trash or completely overpowered, and I'm leaning to completely overpowered. And so we have something that looks completely overpowered and simultaneously has emergent next generation class design, and that immediately goes in bespoke tier. Leave comments below if you disagree. Don't really care, but I want the engagement. Next up, we have Gailshot, which is very simple. It's very role player coded. It's for people that want to be a longbow / longbow ranger. They enjoy ranging. They want to shoot their giga powerful bow. The mechanics look simple but good, and I am 100% sure it will launch in a very powerful state. Most likely, unfortunately, barebow mains, you're gonna want to probably play melee weapons with your melee set, and you're gonna probably go into your melee set and use your melee skills, you know, for bursts like Axe 5 and stuff, and then swap back to your Gailshot bow. You know, very sort of almost like an engineer kit gameplay or something of the sort. But you know, that's good. These are good things. It's simple, elegant design, and also fulfills the roleplay itch. So I'm gonna have to go bespoke on Gailshot. Next up, we have the Amalgam. Surprisingly, there are people that think the Amalgam doesn't look good. One of those people is Wooden Potatoes, who is completely washed, completely fell off. I don't know what's wrong with him. The guy, I mean, probably British tabloid media has broken his brain. He's lost all sense of up and down, right and wrong. Everything's at 6s and 7s. But the guy's smoking crack. Amalgam is great. The design is awesome. The mechanics are awesome, and it looks like it's going to be super, super powerful. And as a result of that, and the fact that if it's balanced correctly, hammer will be the best weapon for it, which, come on, ain't it? Figure it out. The Juggernaut with Amalgam is just a match made in heaven. You have to make it best for hammer. Anyway, everything's good about it. Yeah, is the puddle animation weird? Kind of. If that's your biggest gripe, then things are looking pretty good. If that's your biggest problem with the spec, the puddle animation is weird, then, you know, again, that's a tiny quibble. That is bespoke all day. Paragon, you know, I am a warrior main, but I do not consider myself a quote unquote warrior main, because those people are a bunch of crybabies who post on the forums constantly about triple hit arc divider. I don't want to be associated with those cultural degenerate scumbags. If you post about 3-hit arc divider, you are a bad person, and I don't want you in my exalted warrior class. Go main Thief or Ellie with the other crybabies. You little bitch. So get out of here. That said, Paragon, I don't know. It looks like it's going to be weak as fuck, and the design isn't particularly compelling to me. It has some interesting mechanics, but I don't. From a power level, they're going to have to juice this thing to make it good. Out of the box, it will not have a good DPS build, and they're going to have to buff it quite massively to give it a good DPS build. And the support build is pretty suspect, I have to say. We're gonna have to probably use something like Axe, Warhorn, and Staff on swap or something like that. And it just looks like it's going to be very spammy and not reactive. Like, you're just going to have to use your burst skills as often as possible, and you're going to have to use all your skills on cooldown, and there's not going to be any sort of like reactive healing gameplay. And to me, it looks kind of boring. It looks underpowered. Not sure it's going to see a lot of play in the state that they showed it off on the stream. But, you know, it's beta. These things can change. But as of right now, I'm putting it in broke category. It's just not there. It's not cooked. So you might ask why I didn't put it in refund, because I think it does, unlike Luminary, Paragon does fit the sort of role play that people wanted from a Paragon. Mechanically, it does feel sort of like what you would expect a Paragon in Guild Wars 2 to be. So mechanically, it does fit the RP, and that keeps it out of refund tier. It does, since the underlying mechanics do look good, do look correct, even if I don't find them too interesting, then that means there's at least potential to tweak and buff the class to being relevant. Whereas with Luminary, I just don't see, that's the difference, is I just don't see Luminary ever. I mean, you could buff it to being relevant, but it's still a boring class with no flavor whatsoever. And then last up, we have the Revenant spec, which I'm calling it the Revenant spec because it is in fact core Rev. Yes, this class does not feel like an elite spec. This feels like the missing trait line that core Rev needed to at launch to give it something going. From basically what they showed off, it looks like there will be a viable Condi build for DPS with it, but the power version does not look like it's going to be particularly good. I reserve the right to change that when we actually see it in action, but for right now, it really in PvE only looks like it fits a core Condi DPS role. I don't see too many other roles for it in PvE, and unless they buff some numbers big time. And from a flavor perspective, I'm not super sold on it. They really tried to crowbar in the monk and the dervish to these utility skills to try to give it some flavor, and to try to like somewhat mimic the idea that Raza can change his profession. But I feel like that's not executed very well, and I think that the Raza profession changing mechanic should really be more an explicit part of the class of the spec itself, and not like this throwaway utility skill vibe. So yeah, I'm gonna have to put that in refund tier because it does not impress me whatsoever, and I don't think it's going to be particularly good or interesting ever. And even if they made the DPS good on both power and Condi builds, I wouldn't be particularly interested in playing it. If it became the best and I had to play it in raids because it's the most viable build by a lot for DPS Rev, then I would. But I wouldn't feel particularly happy about it, because really all it does, it just feels like you're playing core Rev. It doesn't feel like you're playing a new transformative elite spec, the way, for example, Amalgam or Gailshot or Antiquary or even Evoker feels like you're playing something very different and very new. It sort of just feels like you're playing the core class. But anyway, guys, that's it for this tier list. This is the only correct tier list. Every other streamer's tier list is absolute dog shit. And you should go to their tier list videos and downvote them. If you are thinking of downvoting my video over anything that I've said in it, then you are a papija, and you should just, close the tab and feel ashamed of yourself. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. You should go to your local Chipotle Mexican grill, get extra guac with your order. Can't go wrong with that. And I will see you guys next time.